Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us here for Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first today, we've got the satellite imagery, which let's see, which I think I'm going to need help with a map advancer there because this thing, there we go. Satellites. Front coming up, a lot of moisture from actually the subtropics streaming northward here. Maybe not this batch, but the next batch coming up will be more connected down there. Anyway, that bringing rain up to the North Gulf Coast, areas of back to the west, all the way out to the west coast there. The front line right through this area, roughly, possibly the back edge right through here. And areas of rain in advance of that, areas of showers behind it. Not a lot of clearing here except on the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, but getting a few breaks there this afternoon. Looks like from maybe Chignik on down towards Sand Point, back into the clouds there, Nelson Lagoon to Falls Pass Cold Bay, and right on the edge for Unalaska westward, Adakanatka, just in the clouds there, clear skies down to the south, clouds, fog, drizzle, rain, all the way up to the main low center here, just north of the Pribilof Islands, and breaks in the clouds here, some sunshine today, again, north of the Alaska Range from 40-mile country there in the Yukon Flats, eastward on out to just about the Selawik Valley, definitely the Kobuk Valley, and some of that clearing moving in this afternoon after a cloudy start to the day. North slope here, kind of area clouds lingering there over the west central areas with some sunshine. Looks like even out along the coastline this afternoon, either side of the central coast. And not a bad day here for the Panhandle, but clouds on the increase right off the coast there, start kind of spreading into the northern areas, but mostly sunny on down to the south. And moving that ahead again, let's see on the chart today, roughly the position of the front right through here this afternoon, right across Kodiak Island, give or take, and southeast flow pumping moisture right up to the North Gulf Coast again, Kenai Peninsula oriented just right there for the heaviest precipitation, and back to the west, kind of an intermittent rainfall going on, showers, light rain at times, call it either one there, all the way out to the coast, wrapping back down into the main low center here near the Pribilof Islands, and a trough bringing some showers eastward there over the Aleutian, southeast Bering Sea, in the dry slot this afternoon there across much of Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, but a lot of showers back out to the west, and those will all be rotating eastward and northeastward as we get into kind of a wet period there for the southwest part of the state, or it stays in one. Otherwise, thunderstorms this afternoon, most numerous here over toward the eastern border areas, and then scattering out back to the west. We're a couple of strikes here on the northern edge of this cloud shield, moving northward this afternoon, but much more vigorous action off to the east and into Canada with some scattered showers. Some of these may develop into thunderstorms here. Could be currently into early this evening up here over the Northwest Brooks Range, actually along the central and western areas there. And then low clouds and fog along the Arctic coast, northeast winds, keeping it cool there, but some sunshine over the inland areas. And the forecast for tonight, the next graphic showing low clouds, fog, and even some drizzle or very light rain occurring here along the coastal areas with high pressure right off the coast there, light winds, deep marine layer, but dry over the inland areas. Chance of showers here spreading over to about Yakutat, maybe reaching Elfin Cove one way or the other, maybe not. Mostly dry, Susitna, Madanuska Valley, and most of Cook Inlet except the west side. Heading south, you get a better chance of rain down south of Anchor Point, definitely in toward Iliamna, and then back toward possibly Seldovia. On up to Seward, periods of rain tonight. Prince William Sound, heaviest on the west side, less of a chance for Valdez. Eastward, again, periods of rain over to about Cape Yakataga. Copper River Basin, mostly dry. And mostly dry here from the Tanana Valley all the way up to the Brooks Range, out to the Arctic coast. Just seeing some low clouds and fog, continued easterly flow there. kind of brisk, 15, 25 miles an hour at times with, again, low clouds and fog. Less of that on the west side, but still some isolated showers going on up here. And this probably will keep some clouds in along the Brooks Range overnight tonight. It won't go stark clear like I have it drawn there, that sand trap. But out to the west here, southerly flow behind the front. Again, surges of moisture rolling in from the southwest with the main low center both at the surface and aloft out to the west here. So that southwest flow is going to continue. Wet pattern for the southwest coast and inland areas, with more showers for the Aleutians. Next system out west, very weak, and for tomorrow, that pushes slowly eastward, now just south, not really moving all that fast. Main low out here northwest of the Pribilofs, and remnants of the front. This portion of the front, just leftover moisture here, couldn't even really dash anything in there, just clouds, areas of rain and showers. A little more vigorous, a little more defined out to the west there with that trough along the west coast. Looks like the Yukon Delta northwestward will be rain, Kuskokwim Delta showers, and another surge of moisture sliding northward here will bring more rain into the coastal areas tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, it looks pretty good over Bristol Bay, kind of in between systems there with Dillingham, maybe King Salmon. On down the peninsula, looking pretty good. Still a risk of some showers for Falls Pass and King Cove there. Less of that for the eastern Aleutians. Could see some clearing. With any luck, you might see some clearing over the Pribilofs, but you probably get hit with one of those showers eventually. Mostly dry for the central Aleutians. Light wind conditions back into kind of IFR type weather with drizzle and fog towards Shimia. Thunderstorms tomorrow way up here along the Brooks Range, too stable to the south for anything going on. So mostly sunny, highs 75 to 80 here from the Yukon Flats down into possibly the northeast Copper River Basin. Mostly dry for the southeast coast after the morning low stuff that'll probably linger into the afternoon here right along the coast, but dry day anyway with continued light winds. And then for the outlook on Thursday, got that moisture surge comes north and northwestward back up to the coast, bringing a good shot of rain in late Thursday and Thursday night here along the Kenai Peninsula back down toward Kodiak Island. Not quite as heavy there, the low center just to the southwest, and not all that strong, so not a lot of wind with it, but looks like actually ahead of the front there's gale warnings out for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Small craft advisories developing there along the central and north coast of the Panhandle, and also small craft advisories for Cook Inlet, the Barren Islands, and Cook Inlet and the Barren Islands in Kachemak Bay. Otherwise, look for some afternoon showers along the western Alaska Range, less of that over the eastern Alaska Range, and then scattered showers, possible shower there in the afternoon for the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, looking mostly sunny there, as well as the northwest interior. Out toward the coast, shower, maybe some clouds. Arctic coast looking good, as well as the north slope looks sunny. Areas low clouds and fog at times along the Arctic coast, and that's about it. Otherwise, out to the west, another weak system out there, not much wind. In fact, winds are forecast to be light and variable with this feature, so just definitely looking at periods of rain with no wind, fog, low clouds, IFR, Alaska Peninsula, all the way out to, let's see, Adak, and then maybe it gets better out towards Shimia and Kiska Island. Looking at temperatures this afternoon, all in the 50s, upper 50s for the southeast coast here, except over at Stewart, 64 degrees, 60 at Skagway. Otherwise, Elfin Cove, 54, same thing at Yakutat, lower 50s along the North Gulf Coast there, 52 in Cordova, same thing over at Whittier, only 53 in Seward, 61 at Homer though, 56 at Kodiak, 54 Kenai, and a 58 degree reading over at Palmer. Talkeetna up to 63, same thing for Copper River Basin, about 62 at Gulkana. Then back up into the 70s to the central Tanana Valley, but Delta just at 69. Fairbanks, though, 73. Tanana at 75. And farther to the north, Fort Yukon, one of the warmer locations at 76, 72 Eagle, 72 also there at Bettles, and over in Ambler. Near 70 across the Berks Range there. Anatuvik, 69. Arcticville, 68. 69 at Atasuk as well. Also get up near 70 on the north slope. Lower to mid 40s out along the coast. 50s here over the northwest, but Buckland up to 64. And the Seward Peninsula all in the 50s, 45 Savunga, and near 70 at McGrath, and then back down into the mid 50s down the river valleys there, all the way out to the coastline. We fall into the lower 50s for the Pribilofs there in the western areas. There we go, upper 40s for that area. Lower 50s for the Fox Islands there on Alaska, 50 degrees at Atka, 46 Shemya, and a 55 at Cold Bay. For the lows tonight, pretty mild up here, mid-50s, 55 to actually 60 up through the northwest areas. Mid-50s onto the east, cooling a little bit there. Cooler to the south, higher elevations, of course, and then 40s for the southwestern areas, deltas, Bristol Bay, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, southeast coast. Highs tomorrow looking pretty good. Again, over the east and north slope, they're back up maybe into the lower 70s, into the 70s, 75 to 80 here over the northeast interior. Say from just north of from the Fairbanks area northward to the Brooks Range. Cooler out here to the west with clouds and rain, and also the Panhandle looking well into the 60s, so it might be a little bit warmer tomorrow than what you saw today. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, VFR over a good portion of the state, but we've got IFR on the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range at times and areas, especially down to the south. So Lake Clark and Merrill on the eastern side, IFR persisting western Prince William Sound, marginal VFR due to the low clouds and that kind of stuff here from about Port Alexander northward along the coast. VFR out along the coastline, IFR Pribilofs up to St. Matthew Island. And for the afternoon, that area really expands out here, but stays well to the west, St. Lawrence Island on down, including the Pribilofs now. And this IFR patch stays put there along the Alaska or the western Alaska Range, and a little bit IFR possible. More of a marginal afternoon coming up for the southern Kenai Peninsula into western Prince William Sound. And moving on to passes, Anaktuvik, VFR, and then becoming marginal, depending, it could be the clouds moving northward. Showers could become marginal VFR in the southern entrance in the afternoon, and that same forecast for Adigan as well. And for the western Alaska Range, Lake Clark, Merrill, IFR on the eastern approach, maybe the western too. Better conditions for rainy with marginal VFR. And for windy, any clouds, showers will be of the VFR variety there, and it'll be no showers or clouds or thunderstorms for Isabel and Mentasta, both VFR. And for Tanita, VFR, pretty good there, although cloudy. And for Portage, IFR becoming marginal in the afternoon. Throughout the day, look for gradual improvement. For the Chilcoot and White, VFR, freezing levels about 6,000 feet here, kind of a cool wedge from the Bering Sea extending eastward all the way to the right off the southeast coast here, 10,000 feet up over the northeast and northern interior, 4,000 to 6,000 feet out over the southern Bering and the Aleutians. Icing for tomorrow, surge here off the coast coming northwestward, so that'll be rolling in to the northwest onto the coast tomorrow night and into the next day. Otherwise, along the western Alaska Range, and a bigger swath out here from well, actually the southeast Bering Sea right up along the west coast of the southern Seward Peninsula, and also some possible there over the western Brooks Range. Moving on to the jet stream. Upper level low out here over the Bering Sea, southwest flow right into the southwest coast, turning southerly, keeping that area wet. And another branch here down to the south, heading in with ridging over the southeast coast. General ridging holding up here over the northeast, keeping it nice and mild. Upper level low feature drifting northward here. Again, that's going to be with that next surge of moisture coming northward with the icing and rain. And at 9,000 feet, we've got a narrow band of pretty good winds, 30 to 40 knots out of the southeast from the western Gulf of Alaska and across Kachemak Bay, turning north right through here, dropping back along the coast, 20 to 25 knot southwesterlies with that feature. Light winds here, Panhandle up across the eastern interior. And then for the 3,000 feet, same pattern, easterly 25 to 30, up to 40 knots there near Kodiak Island. 30 knotters right into the southwest interior, but that's a narrow band of that. So taking a look at the turbulence chart, occasional light to isolated moderate chop possible, or actually moderate widespread there in that turquoise area, Fognak Island, the Barrens, right up across Lake Iliamna, Kachemak Bay, and the western Alaska Range, the southern areas. Could be some turbulence, light to isolated moderate, central Arctic coast and along the southwest coast. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Hi, I'm Craig Goodrich, Fire Marshal for the state of Alaska. I'd like to talk to you before we get started with the upcoming video to tell you that conditions are extremely dry right now in the state. There have been a number of forest fires so far. We want to avoid another disastrous year like we had in 1996 at the Miller's Reach fire. The video that is upcoming will have a variety of useful information, simple points that you can employ to help defend your home from the devastating effects of wildland forest fire. If at the end of this video you have questions, please feel free to contact your local fire department or the office of the State Fire Marshal.
I'm Jim Smalley of the National Fire Protection Association. As a homeowner living in areas where wildfires can occur, you can protect your home and preserve the environment around you by taking a few simple precautions.
First, before you buy land for a home, check with local officials to see what fire protection is available. Keep in mind that some areas are less naturally fire safe than others. For instance, during a fire, narrow canyons become natural chimneys, drawing in fire and accelerating its rate of spread. Locate your home on the most level portion. Fire spreads rapidly, even on minor slopes. If you're building a home on top of a ridge, it's also very important to build an adequate setback, at least 30 feet for a single-story home, to prevent the house from being hit directly by flames and heat moving up the sides of the ridge.
Good to see you.
Pre-construction planning shouldn't stop with the home itself. Consider that in the event of fire, firefighters need to be able to get to your site. You'll need two-way roads with parking lanes to allow fire trucks and emergency vehicles plenty of room to get in and out. And since these vehicles may have difficulty climbing steep roads, build your road with a gradient of less than 12%. Any bridges leading to your home should also be wide enough and strong enough to support firefighting vehicles. A 40,000-pound minimum is recommended, but check with fire officials about local requirements. If your site has a cul-de-sac, make sure the radius is a minimum of 45 feet, wide enough for a fire truck to turn around without having to back up. A loop or U-shaped driveway provides plenty of access for firefighting equipment and an alternate escape route for you. Be sure to mark your location with a road name and house number clearly visible from the road so firefighters can find you.
Whether you're building a new home or retrofitting an existing one, you can work with building contractors, your architect, and fire protection agencies to create a design that's both aesthetically pleasing and fire safe.
There are many people in there that have bits and pieces of information that individually need to be brought together and produce a sort of an umbrella of information that would be available to the design professions. And that's not just architects, that's planners and landscape architects.
I think that many landscape architects, as well as other design professionals, are not aware of all of the do's and don'ts of protecting structures and life within the urban wildland interface.
The best thing is cooperation from the start. You know, it's iron out the problem areas, try to work out the problem areas, identify them, and then you know, work out solutions to those problems as soon as possible.
What we asked the developer to do was present a variety of opportunities that could be exploited through the project master plan that would be adopted through our process. The applicant came back with those suggestions. He, of course, consulted with the fire protection districts.
There are lots of situations in this particular part of the country where people have built into subdivisions that really didn't have adequate planning from a fire point of view. And so we have areas that we're very concerned about putting firemen into the area to save the houses. And we really feel that if we do have a fire in some particular areas, that we may just have to let the house go, because it would be a suicide mission to put our firemen in there to protect the houses. These are houses that don't have an adequate water system. They have long, narrow driveways. They have less than 30 feet clearance around the structure. They have shake roofs, road sides. They have big bay windows with nice trees growing up through the decks. And as far as we're concerned, these are areas that we're actually going to have to write off. We will not be able to save these houses.
Fire officials say that non-treated wood shake roofs, which catch wind-blown sparks, are the #1 cause of home losses in wildland areas. so your roof should be made of non-combustible or fire-resistant materials. Some jurisdictions may allow the use of factory-treated wood shakes, but you should check this with your local authorities.
You may think that roof sprinklers could prevent a wood shake roof from burning, but they could provide only a false sense of security.
In the event of fire, you would need large volumes of water to really make the roof safe, and water pressure is generally at its lowest during a fire. The electricity needed to pump the water may also fail during a fire crisis. Also, the high winds which often accompany wildland fires can divert the sprinkler spray from the roof. Like the roof, exterior walls should be made of fire-resistive materials from the ground to the roof line. It also helps immensely to keep flammable vegetation, wood piles, and debris away from the walls, but we'll talk more about that later. To ensure that you don't create your own spark hazard, screen your chimneys with non-combustible wire mesh screening. Also, cover your exterior attic and underfloor vents with wire mesh no larger than 1/2 inch to prevent sparks from being drawn in and catching fire. Sparks can melt through plastic or nylon screening. And if you're building a new home, locate your under-eave vents near the roof line rather than near the wall to prevent heat or flames from being entrapped. For the same reason, the eaves themselves should be boxed or designed with minimal overhang. You should also screen under your porch or any other areas below the ground line, again to keep out sparks and flames. Where windows are concerned, thick tempered safety glass is the safest choice, especially for picture windows and sliding glass doors. It may be possible to use double pane glass instead, but you should contact your local fire officials to see what's appropriate. Again, if you're building a new home, minimize the size and number of windows on the side of the house that would likely be exposed to a fire, the downhill side, or both. Also, windows should not face trees or shrubs that are closer than 30 feet away. On the outside, protect windows and sliding glass doors with non-flammable shutters, balconies, or decks. Fire-resistant drapes add extra protection inside.
Welcome back. Look for light winds down on the south coast, west 10, southwest 15, turning south, increasing to 20 knots on the extreme north coast. Small craft advisories with those 8-foot seas. Lynn Canal, south 20, 4-foot seas, and then kind of a light variable condition for the remainder of the areas there. And not much change going to Thursday. We've got south winds, at least a uniform direction now, 10 to 15 knots here, so southern central inside waters, 20 knots Lynn Canal. Small craft advisories coming into the picture now for much of the, well, all of the coast with 8-foot seas, 20 to 25 down south, southeast 25 in the north side. And for Prince William Sound, east 15. But small craft advisories tomorrow, increasing to 25 knots out of the east here, up to 30 knots across the Barren Islands, 25 in Kachemak Bay, 20 knots Kodiak Island, northeast 15 for Cook Inlet. And Thursday's outlook, gale warnings for the eastern North Gulf Coast, and still a pretty stiff easterly breeze there at 30 knots for the remainder of the area across the Barrens. Kachemak Bay, northeast at 30, small craft advisories there for Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, and southern Cook Inlet, 25 knots from the northeast, and Prince William Sound, east 25. Looking at Bristol Bay, southeast 15 for tomorrow, south 15 down the coastline there, kind of a varied direction here on the Pacific side. Then going to Thursday, we'll see that becomes a little bit more, for Thursday it becomes these southwest, I believe, there we go, light and variable, 10 knots, 3 to 6 foot seas, east 15 for Bristol Bay, northeast 20 there from Sitkanak to Chignik. And for the Aleutians, Fox Islands, southwest 15 to 20 knots, otherwise southwest 15, all the way back turning west there just west of Adak, and then light and variable for the western Aleutians. And then that shifts light and variable in toward Adak, and actually the entire Aleutian chain here. Light variable winds in the forecast, weak front, low clouds, fog, rain, drizzle, the entire area. Turning northwest, a little drier back out to the west, but only 15 knots. And the west coast, southwest coast, south winds 20 knots, north of Nunivak Island turning southeast at 20, south 20 for the Pribilofs, east 15 for the northern Bering Sea, about 20 knots for St. Lawrence Islands, 4-foot seas from the southeast. On Thursday from the southeast at 20, 15 knots down toward Nunivak Island, turning east at 15 out of Kuskokwim Bay, light and variable for the Pribilofs, south 20, St. Matthew Island to the west. And going up to the Arctic coast there, Got brisk wind advisories on the central and east side with 25 knots out of the east extending into the west there at the same speed, then dropping off, say, from south of Point Lay down to Cape Thompson southward. We're looking at a southeast wind at about 20. And then for Thursday, southeast, a little more general now, all the way up to the central coast, 15 to 20 knots, with 20 knots more common than 15. Seas 3 to 4 feet here where the seas are open. And still a brisk wind advisory, but not quite as brisk here. And it's restricted over toward demarcation point on the east side, otherwise 20 knots. And for tonight again, clouds, rain associated with this front spreading northward, and still pretty wet. Not so much northern Cook Inlet due to the downsloping nature of the wind flow there, but wet along the North Gulf Coast, low clouds, fog, and drizzle along the immediate coastline of the Panhandle. Thunderstorms diminishing and clearing a little bit there with showers and breezy out over the Aleutians. For the next day, or for tomorrow, we've got rain out here in the west with that trough, just kind of areas of intermittent light rain or showers here farther across Kuskokwim Valley. The southern areas, southern Cook Inlet, chance of rain, North Gulf Coast on the west side, but maybe a break for the east side there from Cordova on down the Panhandle. Looking pretty good tomorrow, partly and mostly sunny. 75 to 80 over the central eastern interior and even the Copper River Basin. North slope rising up to near 70. And the outlook for Thursday, another nice day up there, 70 degrees. And cooler along the coast, maybe some low clouds and fog, but not too bad. And then this rain shifts eastward here, the old front dissipating out. Another surge coming up, wet in the North Gulf Coast, trying to spread into the northern Panhandle and western Cook Inlet, western Susitna Valley, the Alaska Range. Have a good evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.